Okay. I hit the go live button a little bit earlier than I intended to, but that's okay. Um, Welcome to the Magnus Archives. This is my very messy screen presentation. I don't know. In the future, I may do away with some of it. I may get rid of like the chat bubbles or things. I don't know. But as you can see, I'm in Foundry over here. I've got the beginning of the statement that I'm working on, although not the entire thing. I've got my character over here. This is the Cypher version of it, or the Foundry version of the character. I may occasionally show the character sheet from the Magnus Archives book because it's a little bit prettier, but this is more functional, so I may stick with what's here in Foundry and then just keep it for my own use, I guess. I'm also going to be using Mythic for this, and I am also going to be combining some moves from a Powered by the Apocalypse game. It's a carved in Brindlewood game called Public Access, which is another kind of horror game that cares about digital things. Both Public Access and Magnus Archives are pretty aimed at the whole analog horror thing. Magnus Archives, it's a lot of audio recordings, which makes sense because it's based off of a podcast. Public horror is, or public access rather, is built more on the idea of VHSs. And one of the rules in public access is that there is almost always a handy VCR to play a tape in. I am moving a little bit away from that into some more digital stuff. My main character here is going to be, at least the one I'm starting with, is going to be a internet enthusiast. And they're going to kind of stumble into this situation while they are surfing the web. And so it's going to be a little bit more like computer oriented. There's still going to be audio statements. I'm still going to read statements out loud, things like that. So I think I'm just going to get started. And like any good Magnus Archives episode, I'm going to start with the statement. I wrote this beforehand. It's about an 8-minute long statement. And here it goes. Statement taken, March 12th, 2025. Subject, Seth Hounds, EMT. Statement begins. I love driving ambulances. The roar of the siren, the feel of having someone's life in your hands. Drive fast enough and you might save them. Go too slow and, well, death always rides in the back. I didn't know how literal that feeling would become when we were called out to 91 Sycamore Avenue on a routine call. Help me! I think my husband is having a heart attack! So Ren and I piled into the ambulance, siren wailing through the night. It was 2 a.m, no traffic. I floored it, blasting through town. Heart attacks can happen fast, but I knew I would be faster. We made it in 6 minutes, damn near record time. When we arrived, Mr. Peterson was in the kitchen, clutching his left arm. A guttural groan forced its way up his throat. It's burning! It's burning! Ren sprang into action. It's okay, Mr. Peterson. We're here to help. Can you get out to the ambulance, or do we need a stretcher? It hurts. It hurts too much. Can't move. Can't breathe. We're getting you a stretcher, Ren called, but I interjected. There isn't time. I can carry him. The hell you can. It's against policy. You know that. I can do it, Ren. And I did. I hauled him up into a fireman's carry. The movement must have knocked something loose inside of him, because as I lifted, he vomited down my back, warm, sticky, clinging to my uniform. I tried not to think about it, but oh, how I wish I had thought about it. I carried him to the ambulance while Ren rushed ahead to open the doors. Together we got him inside and onto the stretcher. I've got it from here, Ren said. Do what you do best. Drive. I threw myself into the driver's seat, flipped the siren, and I drove. What happened next? I still don't understand. It feels like a dream, and if not for the scars on my back, I'd believe it never happened. Maybe I'd fallen asleep at the wheel and driven on autopilot, but the scars are there, and I can still feel them burning, burrowing deeper into me. Sometimes I wake up and I swear there's less of me left. The strangeness started with two things. I don't remember which happened first. One was the fog. As I turned from Mystic Avenue onto Main Street, a thick wall of it swallowed the road. Some drivers would slow down, but Mr. Peterson was in the back, dying, and I wasn't going to let some fog slow me down. The siren was on. People would move. The other strange thing was the smell. It started faint, just a whisper of something acrid, like burned cloth. I thought maybe Ren hadn't cleared the pedals properly. Maybe something was scorching in the back. What's that smell? I called out. You mean it's vomit? She shot back. No, it's like smoke. But she was distracted. Mr. Peterson, keep your eyes open. Look at me. Look at me, Mr. Peterson. I glanced at the rear view. He wasn't looking at her. His head was lolling. His skin had gone gray. I gritted my teeth and pushed faster through the fog, knowing that he was dying, and I was ready to take the turn onto Hospital Drive. But the turn wasn't there. And you don't understand. I was counting the streets. I know the streets. After Mystic came Rock, and then Boulder, and then Sandstone. Hospital Drive should have been next, right before Gravel Street. So there. 1, 2, 3. Rock, Boulder, Sandstone. And then Gravel Street. I had missed it. Ren, I missed the turn. It's this damn fog. You missed the turn? She snapped. It's because you're driving too fast. You always drive too fast. And maybe she was right. I slammed the ambulance into a U-turn, floored it for a second, and then eased up. Gravel Street, on the left. Hospital Drive should be next, also on the left. But then, there was Sandstone. It didn't make sense. The burning smell was growing thicker, suffocating. I gripped the wheel tighter. The streets weren't just fogged over, they were wrong. The pavement was shifting underneath the ambulance. My headlights barely cut through the mist, and the street signs were blank or unreadable. Then Mr. Peterson moved. His body had gone limp, but now his head snapped up, and in the rearview mirror I saw him looking right at me. His pupils were gone, just black pits, and his mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile. The ambulance shuddered. The wheel jerked in my hands, yanking us toward a street that hadn't been there a second ago. The tires screamed, the siren wailed, and underneath it I heard him whisper, "You shouldn't have carried me." My stomach dropped. "You let me inside." A horrible, wet crackling sound came from the back. Ren was shouting. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. "Now I ride with you." The ambulance moved on its own. I was still gripping the wheel, but it didn't matter. I wasn't steering anymore. The engine roared, the speedometer climbing past anything safe, past anything even I would go at. The streets blurred past in streaks of gray and black. In the mirrors, the world behind me wasn't right. Buildings sagged inwards. Streetlights flickered and then died. And then, just ahead, hospital floodlights. All at once, the fog peeled away. The burning smell vanished. The world snapped back into place. I slammed the brakes. The ambulance lurched to a stop. Ren flung the doors open, screaming for help. Orderlies rushed forward. But when they pulled the stretcher out, it was empty. There was no body. No Mr. Peterson. Just blackened straps burned clean through. And later, when I peeled off my uniform, I saw them. The scars. No, not scars. That's not right. Not burns or scratches, but words. Words seared into the flesh of my back, like hot irons pressed too long into fire. He rides with you. And now, every time I drive, I smell the burning. Every time I look in the mirror, I see his smile. And worst of all, if I slow down, even for a second, I feel the scars burn deeper. He's still carving his way into me, still burning himself into my back. Like one day, there won't be anything left. Statement ends. So that is the statement. You know what? I will post a link to it in chat for funsies, and anyone can go look at it if they want to. I'm just going to put that in chat. Statement for game here. Join Twitch today. This is my account. What do you mean I can't post on my own account? We're going to try this. Statement in chat. Okay. So if you want to look at that, you can. You certainly don't have to. But I'm going to pick up the game. I'm going to introduce my character now, I guess. My character is going to be Milton Marks. He is a tech-savvy occultist who practically lives online. Despite the fact that he is a cultist, I didn't give him any magical abilities. I gave him both esoteric and slightly sinister skills, so he's a bit of a skill monkey, but I didn't want to start with someone having access to a lot of magical stuff. He's still very much not in the know of things. He is Wiccan, and the reason I said that, I was Wiccan growing up, and I spent a lot of time on message boards and things like that, and that's what Milton does. He practically lives online. He goes through message boards, a lot about his religion sometimes, but also just in like the weird, creepy places online. He watches YouTube videos about unsolved horror mysteries. He's on like Reddit No Sleep, always looking at mysteries that haven't been solved yet. And so I think it's like 2 a.m. one night. He's up late. I think he probably lives, well, let's ask Mythic if he lives by himself. We're going to start at a Chaos Vector 5. I will explain Mythic as we play through here, but it's basically a GM emulator and Oracle kind of all rolled into one, and you can ask it questions and it will give you the answers to things. So my first question for Mythic is, does Milton Marks live alone? Does Milton Marks live alone? We'll post it to chat. Ooh, I should change my dice up. He does live alone. And I don't know why it rolled. What? Oh, because I rolled... Oh my gosh. Mythic is going wild. I rolled a yes, and I got doubles. And when you get doubles in Mythic, it means a random event happens. It's a negative event about struggle and environment. It's weird that this is happening now because this is like the starting scene, but I'll respect it. So we found a couple things here. Milton lives alone. It's about 2 in the morning. He's up late. I don't think he has left any of the lights on, so he's just sitting in front of his computer screen. His face is like illuminated by the screen. And he's looking through, and we see that he's on, I think probably no sleep is where he sees this statement of the ambulance driver at here. So he sees the statement and he reads it, and it's a little bit creepy, and he realizes it's been cross-posted to somewhere else where No Sleep is usually like fictional stories. It's been cross-posted over to a conspiracy forum, conspiracy Reddit. And so he's reading it there, and he's thinking, it would be wild if this was true, right? Like, it would be crazy. And so he's going to start poking around a little bit. And I think the first thing he's going to do is take a look and see. There's a couple of names here in the statement. The first one is Seth Hounds. And so he's going to do some research and see if he can find a Seth Hounds. I think the difficulty for this, I'm going to say that the base difficulty of this mystery is 4. But I think this is just public information with a name. He's got a name for it. So I think this is only a 2. So this is a difficulty 2. He passes. So yeah, he pulls up Seth Hound's information. Seth Hounds is an EMT. This statement was made just a few days ago, so he is still an EMT. He works at a hospital, and it turns out the hospital is in the same town that Milton lives in, and that town is going to be... Let me roll on descriptions and see if that gives me any thought about what the town could be. Careless. Pale. That sort of feels like Paris to me, except I know nothing about Paris other than stuff. So I think I'm going to not do Paris. Careless feels like a walking town to me. I think, like, he probably doesn't have a car. So I think we're going to set this in, like, I almost want to say Somerville or Boston. And the theme is going to be that, like, at night, there's always, moon in the sky. I don't want to say the moon is always full because that's a little... like supernatural. The moon obviously isn't always full, but that's like the image I want, is like the moon shining down on this city, lending it an almost ethereal mood. I think there's always a little bit of fog crawling across the bottom, crawling across the ground here. So yeah, he finds Seth Hound's information. I'm going to start a journal entry, which is just like research notes. Page. I'm going to ambulance statement basic research. He's got Seth Hounds. He's an EMT. He's got his address and place of work. So he can contact Seth. I think the next thing he's going to do is look for Ren. This is a little bit harder because he had a first and last name for Seth Hounds. He does not have that for Ren. But he knows it's a Ren that's working at the hospital. I'm going to make this a difficulty level 3 research check. I really want to change those dice. He fails. I'm not going to spend XP on this here. But we'll do here. He does not find Ren's information. The next two things he's going to look for are Mr. Peterson's address. Again, he doesn't have a first name, but he does have a last name, and he has the street that it was on. So I think this one's a difficulty 2. I think this is easy. Yeah. He does find Mr. Peterson's address. And I think he finds Mr. Peterson's first name, which is... R. Price. Mr. Price Peterson. I don't like that. Prentice Peterson. I like that. Prentice Peterson. So he finds Mr. Prentice Peterson's address. There is something weird for him to find here, and one of the things I'm doing is if you beat a difficulty by 2 difficulty levels, by 2 steps, you can get some bonus information things. This is kind of something I'm stealing from Powered by the Apocalypse a little bit. Mr. Peterson's address, he's going to look it up on Zillow and find out that the house has been abandoned. Abandoned for about... let's roll 2d10. I really want to change these dice. I really wish I had changed the dice before we started playing. For about 9 years. Is there any other research that he can do that's, like, obvious to me? He's on his computer, he's looked up Seth Hounds, he's looked up Ren, he's looked up Mr. Peterson's address. He can probably find the hospital that it's at. Let's roll a difficulty 2 for that. He does. This is Boston, so there's probably a couple, but Mr. Peterson's house, you know, it's in Somerville, which is a suburb of Boston. Not even a suburb, but like an area of Boston. And it's just like the Somerville emergency room. I don't even think there is in real life a hospital in Somerville. I think they're all like the big hospitals in Boston. This one is not as big. It's a little smaller. Yeah, so he does some research. He does this research. I think it takes him about an hour and a half to do his research. So now it's like 3:30 in the morning or so. And I think he's going to go to bed for the night. And he's kind of like, I think like when he finds out that Mr. Peterson's house has been abandoned for 9 years, he's like, okay, this was on no sleep. That doesn't check out. I don't think this can be true. And he goes to bed for the night. And this is normally where he would stop. Like, he is not a person that goes and investigates things on his own. He's an internet sleuth, right? He wants to sit at his computer and type at his keyboard and solve mysteries that way. But he has really bad insomnia this night, and he just can't stop thinking about this statement. Something about the way it read, something about the little details are really kind of bothering him. And so he gets up in the morning and he thinks, you know what? Something about this is really bothering me. I'd like to get it completely dismissed out of my mind. So I'm going to reach out to Seth. I don't even have to leave the house. I'm going to look up Seth's Facebook. Hi, Bright Crazy Star. How are you? Welcome to my weird little stream here. So he reaches out to Seth on Facebook. We will actually just put this in research notes here. Facebook message to Seth Hounds from Milton Marks. And he's going to say, "Hi, Seth. I hope this message... I hope it's okay that I send this message. I just read this thing on No Sleep, and I don't believe that it could possibly be true. However, it's really, bugging me. Is there a way we could talk? My name is Milton. Hopefully talk to you soon. Milton." He sends that message, and we're going to find out how Seth reacts to that in a second here. Doing great. Am Charlie in CU, big solo and group player. Hey Charlie, I think I have probably talked to you in CU a little bit. I tend to be super active in CU for about a week, and then it gets lost in the haze of all of my Discords, because I'm in 50 different Discord servers. And then I do another Cypher thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, Cypher Unlimited. I should go check that out again. So, whatever. Well, I hope you're, I don't know, enjoying this weird live thing that I'm doing. Okay, Seth has sent this Milton has sent this Facebook message to Seth, and I think I'm just going to ask Fate, does Seth answer? And I think I'm just going to leave it unsure. So let's find out. No, Seth does not answer. And I think that the thing that is maybe a little bit weird about it, not only does he not answer, but he immediately blocks Milton. And that sets Milton's alarms off a little bit, I guess. And Milton's like, you know what? No, I'm not just letting it drop. How dare he not talk to me? I think he's the sort to get a little bit annoyed when people just dismiss him out of hand, and he's feeling that a little bit now. And so he's got Seth's address. He's just going to walk across town and knock on Seth's door. We had this random event from earlier. Environment struggle. I don't know. I'm still keeping that in my head. So the next scene in Mythic, as I said, it's a bit of a GM emulator. You always test your next scene about whether it's going to happen the way you think it's going to happen, or if it happens a little bit differently. The next scene I've got in mind is Seth stepping off the bus and walking up, or Milton stepping off the bus and walking up to Seth's door. And let me just test the scene for that here, which I do by rolling 1d10. I kind of thought there would be a button to test the scene, but I don't see one. So let's just roll 1d10, and if it's 6 or higher, and it is not. Okay, so the scene happens as we expected. Milton goes up and he knocks on Seth's door. Is Seth home? I think he's likely to be home. I almost think he's very likely to be home. He is not home. Okay. Okay, I want to change my dice real quick. I know I should have figured that out before I started the stream, but I didn't, and so now we're going to figure it out now. We want something like, I don't know why they're texture. Let's go like, ooh, that's neat. Kind of spooky. What if we do like stone font? Can we do, is there a spooky font? Like, Courier is not spooky, but it is the font I've been using for things. And then let's change the colors to black and green, because this is Magnus Archive. So like, kind of like here. And we're gonna copy this. And we're going to paste it here. And now if I roll a die, 2d10. Yeah, I like those much better. They've got a touch of green to them. I think those look good. Okay, so Seth is not home, but is Milton going to sneak into the house? Milton is going to do a quick search around the house and see if there's any sort of obvious alarm or anything, because I think maybe Milton would go inside the house. I'm just going to have him make an intellect roll, difficulty 4. He doesn't see any sort of alarm or anything. He's going to look for an open window. Does he find like an unlocked window? I think that's pretty likely. He does. Yeah, so I think like in the back of the house that there's a window that leads into the kitchen, and it's Seth's kitchen. And there's a couple of things that strike him immediately. The first is the smell of acrid smoke. There is just there's like no smoke hanging in the air, but the smell of it is everywhere. It's not super strong, but it's obvious. He looks around, and I think like the other thing he notices, like he's in the kitchen, I think there's a bunch of like takeout containers sitting on counters. I think there's like half-eaten meals in takeout containers that are like, you know, rotting away. I think mixed in with the smell of smoke is the smell of this rotting mix of like Chinese and Mexican and pizza and things like that. It really smells pretty gross in here. And Milton takes a moment, kind of looks around, closes the window behind him, steps carefully through the kitchen, not wanting to leave a trace that he's there. He grimaces at the smell of the food, and he goes and finds the bedroom where Seth sleeps, and the smell of burning is stronger in the bedroom. And like it's clinging to all of the sheets and everything. Is there something spooky that could happen to him while he's in this bedroom? Or is there a clue that he could find? I think, okay, so one of the things I'm doing, and I said this before, but one of the things I'm doing is I'm actually incorporating some moves from public access, which is powered by the Apocalypse Carved in Brindlewood game that's about spooky things. And I have a list of clues that he might be able to find at different places, if to see if he can find out what's going on. I need to bring that list of clues up. Give me 1 second here. Where did I put it? I thought... Oh, okay, here they are. A list of clues. These are at Seth's house. So, first, my character is going to make a meddling move. The way this is going to work is if he finds something that's a difficulty level of the difficulty +2, so now this is a difficulty 6, he either finds a cipher or he learns something unusual about the situation. If he normally hits the difficulty level, he gains a clue. And if he fails, there's a complication, either with the clue itself or a complication you encounter while searching. This is going to be an intellect roll. I don't have like an investigation skill on this exactly. But that's basically what he's doing, is an intellect investigation sort of thing. So where... A second ago, I had a button up here that let me roll intellect. Intellect roll. Okay. So the difficulty is 4. He beat a difficulty of 5, which is normal. He finds a clue. The keeper will tell you what it is. I think what he finds is he finds a journal, and in the journal, he just sees written over and over again, "He rides with me. He rides with me. He rides with me." And it's just page after page after page. It is this, like, harshly written. Some of the pages are torn where, like, the pen cut into the paper. And then there's another line, like, I think in the margins. "The faster I go, the worse it gets, but when I stop, it burns so bad." And that's written in, like, the margins of this diary. And Milton picks it up, and just, like, a shiver goes down his spine, because, like, in a way, this journal kind of lends credence to what happened. It makes the things that he read true, because why would Seth plant a journal in his room to find? Like, this was clearly a private place, and this is not the journal of a person who is doing well. Seth slips the journal into, I think he's wearing, like, a backpack, and he slips back out the way he came, back through the window, and he's going to take the journal home. And that scene went well. So one of the things, again, in Mythic is that when a scene goes well, the chaos factor goes down, and it means that there is more of a chance for altered scenes and things like that. It's a way to kind of bump the game up and down a little bit. So my next question, Milton takes the journal. And I think his first impulse is to take it home, and he takes pictures of the journals, and he goes back onto Reddit, and he posts all of the pictures, and he says, "Hey, I don't want to tell people who my real identity is, but I broke into Seth Hound's house. I know I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. But this story was really freaking me out, and I didn't believe it was true. But then I found this." And he posts all of the pictures, and it's what you would expect. It's a slew of comments about, "How dare you break into someone's house? You didn't have a right to do that." sort of just people who are angry at him for like breaking the law and like things. I think there's another couple of statements. It's like, oh, this is an ARG. I get it. And a bunch of people are now like combing through the pictures of the journal pages with like a fine-tooth comb, trying to find like little details and things that really aren't there. But I do think it's an interesting question of like, does anyone see something, like, does anyone come up with a theory based on this journal? And I think that is pretty likely. We're going to say likely and roll here. 47. Yes. Personality. Classy and brave. Screen name. T-A-E. I think this is Erie Banks TA, and they're a TA at Somerville Community. Yeah, and I think this person messages Milton and is like, hey, I saw your message online, and I'm looking through this journal here, and is this a game? Because, what do I think her theory is? Let's come up with a description of her theory here, because I'd really have no idea. Lovingly young for a theory about this weird journal. I think she thinks that this is like the start of a horror romance, like a modern, almost gothic romance. And she messages Milton is like, hey, I'm so excited to see how this plays out. I'm sure that this is like a scary romance story here, and I'm so into it. I just wanted you to know that I'm your #1 biggest fan. And Milton's like, I haven't done anything. Why do I have a fan? I think he's very uncomfortable by this fact. I am going to add journal notes here. I'm going to add a page. This is like NPCs. And we've got some obvious ones, Seth Hounds, and now Erie Banks, TA. I don't know what her screen name is, or maybe her screen name is Erie Banks. That is her screen name, that's not her real name. Yeah, so Milton's like, alright, well, cool. I've got this weird journal. No one online is taking it seriously. Everyone hates me for going in. I'm just going to let it lie. It doesn't matter. It's not, I can be done with it. And he puts it away, and he spends the rest of the day playing video games, just trying to ignore everything. And he goes to bed that night, and we see the journal. It's in the middle of the night at like 2:45 in the morning. Milton Marks is asleep, and the journal starts smoking, and Milton's eyes pop open, and he goes over, and he's just staring at the journal. And I'm going to give him a point of stress. I'm going to give him 2 points of stress, because like now not only is it true things are happening, but also this journal, I brought it home and it's smoking. Did I bring a cursed object into my house? Is it haunted? And I think that kind of freaks him out a little bit. And we're going to increase his stress. And I haven't super looked at the rules for recovering stress. I guess that's something I could do now. Does anyone in chat know what the rules for recovering stress is? Is it just like sleeping? Stress and injury. When a player experiences something terrible, they might experience stress. Every 3 points of stress constitutes a stress level. They go from minor wounds to physical damage. Utilizing a supernatural artifact causes stress. Some characters have the ability to withstand more stress than others. Using stress, avoiding or resisting stress, determining stress gained, stress over time. Probably this is actually in recovery and healing, which is on page... Who knows what page that's on? Recovery and healing. Do I have an index? Q, R, S, P, P, Q, R. It's not in the index. Really? Cool. Recovery and healing. Here we go. Alleviating stress. Time in a relatively safe or relaxing space reduces stress by 3 points per hour. Other facts like food and drink, nearby friend, or even a nice dog to pet can help. So I think my rule for this is that as long as the journal is in Milton's house, it is not a relatively safe or relaxing space. The journal makes him on edge, and like he's not going to recover stress from being at home. And that's both because I don't want him to have just an easy way of like, especially in this early stage of recovery, to like immediately get rid of that easy level of stress. You can also burn stress for a negative GMI. Really? I didn't know that. That's neat. Can you burn stress to refuse an intrusion? Like, you can spend an XP to refuse an intrusion, or... I should look that up. Using stress. A desperate character, if they have at least one stress level, they can turn that into a one-time bonus on a single action, burning the stress and easing a task by one step. It represents a sort of manic energy. While this means a reduction in the character's stress level, the GM immediately uses an intrusion that increases the overall tension and danger of the situation. Characters can use stress to gain supernatural powers. These powers represent how a character is changed by their experiences. Okay, that's interesting. So you can burn stress. You can burn a stress level. How often can you do that? Because you don't want to be able to do that all the time. Lastly, in certain situations, characters can use stress to gain. Characters in a long-term campaign should keep track of full stress levels that are gained through supernatural means. This means shock from experiencing something supernatural, but also... Okay, I'm going to have to read through this later. I don't really want to figure all of that out right now. I did scan through this, but yeah. So Seth goes back to bed. He sleeps fitfully, tossing and turning all night, and the smell of that burning journal just kind of fills the air. It never completely goes away. Okay, well, I apologize for the bot in here. Can I... I don't know if I can block bots for being in the chat, and I would really like to. I would like to first time chat. I would like to block her. Manage suspicious user, restrict. Okay. Alright, the bot will no longer bother us. I apologize about that. It's the next day. Milton Marks is still dealing with the stress from the journal. People online aren't being helpful. I think that Erie Banks has gotten a whole bunch of people into the beginning of this gothic romance thing that they think this is. But Milton, I think he's just frustrated and annoyed about it. And you know what? He's not going to let this slide. He wants to talk to Seth. Seth wasn't at home, but Milton knows where Seth works. And by God, he is going to talk to Seth and get it worked out. He goes to the hospital, and the next expected scene is that he finds Seth at the hospital and talks to him. We are going to test that against the chaos factor by rolling a d10. It is higher than the chaos factor, which I do believe means that something happens here. Let me pull up my mythic book. How many different books can I have open, right? I had this open pretty recently, though. It should be... okay, I'm gonna have to go find it. I apologize. Here, let me go find my role-playing game books. Mythic GME 2 and scenes. Okay, testing the expected scene. Roll a d10, compare it to the current CF value. The chaos factor is 4 right now. If you roll above the chaos factor, then the expected scene starts exactly how you thought it would. If you roll equal or less than the chaos factor, then your expected scene changes. So I actually rolled above a 4, so it does not change. Milton finds... Milton goes in and starts poking around the emergency room. He's going to need to make some sort of social role here because the emergency room is really busy. None of the EMTs are going to want to give him the time of the day. They're busy doing things. There's light security at the hospital and things like that. So this is going to be a social role. I'm not going to make it more detailed than that yet, but it's a difficulty 4. And I need this to go well, so I'm actually going to spend some effort. I can only spend 1 effort. His intellect edge should actually be 1 because he's an occultist, and I missed that. Yeah, so I'm going to burn 2 points of intellect. That's, wow, 12, not 2. And now this is a difficulty 3 roll, which he passes really well. He finds some EMTs. And, there's one other thing I want to do here. This is Burnout Mystery Clock. And it's a 6-segment clock, confirm. And he found 1 clue. This fills every time he gets a clue. And I forgot to throw that up there. Yeah, so I think he finds the EMT break room is what he finds. And there's 3 EMTs inside. 2 of them are pretty deep in a conversation with each other, but one of them is just hanging up the phone. And let's find out what this guy's personality is like. He's a gourmet He's quirky, and he's a gourmet. So he's eating some really fancy food that he cooked for himself and brought in for lunch. And I don't know if anyone has watched the Frasier reboot at all. It's kind of wild, but one of the characters is Frasier's son is a firefighter. I'm just going to make this guy that person. So his name is Freddy. And he's really into the food that he's eating. And he looks up, and Milton kind of comes in and says, I'm looking for Seth Hounds. And Freddy kind of looks at him and finishes taking a bite and points at him with his fork and says, "Who's asking?" My name is Milton Marks. I'm a friend. And Freddy shrugs and says, "Well, you can't be that good of a friend because Seth, he's in the hospital." And Milton says, I know that's why I'm here. And Freddy says, No. I don't mean working down here with the rest of us grunts. I mean, he's been admitted. Something happened the other night, and, well, you didn't hear it from me, but he's acting real strange. He's been admitted to the psych unit. And Milton's like, oh, okay. All right, thank you. Thank you. And he leaves. And that was a really easy scene. On the chaos factor for Mythic, I thought the chaos factor went up or went down when a scene went well, but maybe it goes up when a scene goes well. Let me pull up fake questions. Let me look up. There's an index, and of course, I don't think people know how to make good indexes anymore. I miss D&D 3.5, which had just an amazing index process. Chaos factor. Question. The chaos factor is discussed more on page 17, because of course it is. 13, 14, 15. Okay. Choosing odds. The chaos factor. The more out of control scenes get, the higher the chaos factor will climb. The higher the chaos factor, the greater chance of getting a yes in response to a fake question. The chaos factor also determines the frequency of random events and how often scenes begin. Chaos factor starts at 5. A scene that was chaotic and out of control increases the chaos factor by 1, while a scene in which the players were mostly in control decreases it by 1. Okay, that's what I thought. This works a little bit differently than I thought. But the chaos factor is reducing to 3. And the next expected scene is Milton Marks arriving at the psych unit. Is the psych unit locked? And I think the question is likely. Ooh, it's not. So it's not like a dangerous psych unit, right? It's just like maybe people on suicide watch, things like that. But it doesn't have like locked doors or anything like that. So let's test the scene. I really wish. Scene alteration check. Haha. Scene proceeds normally. That is the button I've been looking for. Okay. So Milton makes his way up into the psych ward. And he pokes around, and I think he's going to make an intellect roll here. I don't think this is hard. I think this is just a difficulty 2. Which he does not succeed at. Okay. I think this is a time for an intrusion. because Milton goes up and down the halls and doesn't see Seth anywhere. Seth's name is written on one of the doors, like the hospital doors have like who's in them right now. And Milton finds Seth's door, but Seth isn't inside the room. And so Milton's standing inside Seth's room, kind of looking around, trying to figure out what to do next, when the door to the private bathroom, most hospital rooms have private bathrooms, opens, and Seth comes staggering out. I'm going to give Milton an XP because this is an intrusion. So Seth comes staggering out and slams into Milton, and then backs away a little, or he slams into Milton, and Milton needs to make a speed check or be knocked into some medical equipment, taking a point of stress. And this is a difficulty 4. Because everything here is a difficulty 4. He fails. So he's going to take 1 more point of stress. I believe at 3 points of stress, that puts him... when you take... Every 3 points of accumulated stress constitutes a stress level. Okay, so his stress level is going up by 1. And that means that all rolls he makes going forward are hindered by a step. So things are going to get harder for him here. Seth bumps into him, knocks him into, I think, probably like an IV drip. The IV drip goes clattering backwards. It falls over. One of the IVs breaks open. There's fluid on the ground. Milton slips in the fluid, falls to the floor, and Seth is coming just towards him, a maddened look in his eyes. His eyes are red and bloodshot, and he's just coming towards Milton, and he reaches down and says, "You have to get me out of here! You have to get me out of here!" And Milton is backing away. He's still on his back. He's crawling backwards. And he's like, whoa, dude, I don't even know who you are. And Seth says, "You don't understand. You have to get me out of here." And Milton... This feels actually like a public access move, which is the day move. When you do something risky or face something you fear, name what you're afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve. Then roll with an appropriate ability. And this is facing something Milton fears. Milton doesn't like people in general. People are hard to deal with. And he's afraid that Seth is going to hurt him. That Seth has gone crazy and is going to hurt him. And what kind of roll is this? This is Milton holding up his hands saying, No, look, let's just talk about it. Maybe I'll help. Let's just talk about it. And he's holding up his hands and he's trying to calm Seth down a little bit. This is an intellect roll. I'm going to spend more effort because I do need this to go well. The difficulty is 4. If he beats a difficulty 6, he gets bonus. Now that's a 3 and a 5. Just like there, that made sense to me. I don't know if it made sense to other people. He rolled a 1. Okay. Free intrusion here. Seth is a EMT. He's strong. We already know he can throw people up into fireman's carries because that's how he got Mr. Peterson out of the house in the first place. So he stalks towards Milton and says, "You have to get me out of here, and if I have to drag you out, then I'll do it myself." And Milton is going to take 2 more points of stress. He is stressed the fuck out right now, excuse the language. But he is crazy stressed right now. And Milton just picks him up and heaves him over his back. Or Seth heaves Milton up over his back and starts walking out of the hospital. And Milton's beating on his back. Let me go! Put me down! Put me down! And Seth just doesn't care. On the next question we're going to ask Mythic is anyone going to try to stop them? And I think it's very likely that security is going to get called as Seth drags Milton out of the hospital. Yes. So, security arrives. I think it's just a security guard. I think it's 2 security guards. And the security guards arrive. I think as they're about to hit the elevator of the psych ward, 2 security guards come out of the elevator and they take position around Seth and they're like, "Let him go, Mr. Hounds. You've got to let him go." And Seth says, "No, I've got to get out of here. If you don't let me out, then I'll hurt him. I'll kill him." And Milton's like, no, just put me down. And the security guards are like, "No, calm down, Mr. Hounds. Just calm down. Put him down, and I'll be happy to take you out of the hospital myself." And Seth says, "You're lying. I know you're lying. I can tell. Don't you think I know what happens at hospitals? I'm an EMT. I know exactly what happens. You're just trying to delay me." And the security guard says, "No, that's not what's happening here. You can trust me. Don't worry." And Seth says, "No, I've got to go. I've got to go fast." And he's going to try to slam past one of the security guards. And instead of going into the elevator, he's going to hit the stairwell. And I think this is just going to happen. I think the security guards are not strong enough to stop Seth. As I said, Seth is very strong. He's in shape. But I think Milton does have a chance here to reach out and either grab onto one of the security officers in an attempt to escape, or to grab a taser off of one of the security guards or something like that. This is going to be a speed check. Normally it's a difficulty 4. I'm going to push this up a difficulty because he is on Seth's back. This is a very bad situation from him. So it's a difficulty 5 plus he's hindered. So it's really a difficulty 6. Difficulty 6. And he is going to spend 3 points of speed to bring it back down to a 5. He needs to roll a 15 or higher, which feels like it probably isn't. Ooh. He rolled a 19 with a minor effect. Wow. Okay, the next thing then, I think he grabs onto one of the security guards, and the security guard acts fast and, grabs his arm as, Milton is reaching out, and yanks him off of Seth's shoulder. But I think they do go flying backwards, and Seth needs to make another speed check or take some more stress. But this is just a difficulty 4, so he needs a 12 or higher. I think they do slam backwards. They don't grab their feet. They kind of get tangled up in each other and they go rolling back. But they both land safely. Milton doesn't take any more stress, and then the other security guard, now that Seth isn't holding Milton, sees an opening and just fires a taser gun off at Seth, and Seth goes lurching towards the ground, and it's enough to bring him down. And the security guards are going to take Milton and take him down to, like, I think, like, the security office, and they're going to apologize. I'm so sorry. That shouldn't have happened on our watch. Do you want... we're calling the police. It's clear that Seth is too dangerous. We're not really equipped to keep him here. And so the police are going to take him down to the lockup for the night while we find a better place for him, somewhere a little bit more secure. And Milton nods, and it takes him a couple of hours, and then he finally gets out of the hospital. He has taken 5 points of stress. He is exhausted, unhappy. He knows that everything he read about is true. He's terrified that he's involved now and that, like, the journal is still at his house. And he goes home, and he takes the journal, and he's going to do something with the journal. You know what? He's going to take the journal, and he takes it back over to Seth's house. He goes back in through the window, and he, like, leaves it where he found it. And then he goes back home. But when he gets home, he's looking to de-stress a little bit, to unwind. He sits it down at his computer, and his computer doesn't turn on, and the smell of acrid smoke is coming from his computer. And he has this moment where he realizes that he scanned the journal into his computer, and even though he took the journal back, in a way it is still in his house, and now his computer is broken. He's got a laptop. He's got a fancy laptop. So, like, he still has access to, like, the internet and things like that, but the computer is down. And I think he's going to take out his phone and start flipping through Reddit. And I think he has a bunch of angry messages about other people's computers that have been burned after they have opened this journal. So that is something that's happening in the background as well, and I want to make note of that. Other people's computers are burning up after looking at the journal pages. It's happened enough that people are realizing what's happening, and to think that Milton is uploading malware that, like, makes overclocks processors and things like that. People are super mad at him. And actually, I think I'm going to give him another point of stress because, like, yeah. I do have to figure out, like, if he's got 2 levels of impairment, is that going to knock him down to debilitated? How does that work? I don't know how the damage track works in... Is this in stress and injury? Other types of damage, healing, recovering points in a pool. A debilitated character typically needs 2 full days of inactivity to move to impaired. Treatment by someone skilled in medicine can reduce this. He gets recovery rolls. How do recovery rolls? This is just to restore points in a pool, right? Which is just normal Cypher. Yeah, so that's just normal Cypher rules. But I think the damage track... The damage track. Here we go. Oh, excuse my weird noises while I look through rules here. An impaired... Hail is the normal state. Hurt is a step. Impaired. When an impaired character applies effort, it costs 1 extra point. Dead is dead. I can't find the thing that I thought I read, but I'm almost positive that when you take a level of stress, not a point of stress, but a level of stress, that knocks you down the damage track. And he's got 2 levels, so he is debilitated now. Can't take actions other than moving an immediate distance. Cannot move if speed pool is 0. We're going to let some time pass here. I think that... Oh, here we go. Bright Crazy Star, Charlie says, if he has 2 levels of impairment, he is incapacitated. Hail, impaired, debilitated, dead. You can use a recovery roll to go up 1 step on the damage track as well, not just recover pool points. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. I didn't know that. So he's going to spend an action... does he have to choose between restoring pool points and going up the damage track, or do both things happen? That's probably in recovery rules. I can probably just look that up. If a character points pools are full. Oh, if a character's pools are full, a 10-hour recovery roll can be used to move a character from impaired to hail. Or from hurt to hail. So he has to recover his points to full, and then he can spend a 10-hour recovery to push himself up the track, is what my reading is saying. And that's how I'm going to do it for now. So he's going to roll 1d6 plus 1. To see he is restoring 7 points. We'll spend 3 of that in speed, which brings him back up to 9. And then that gives me 4, which brings him to 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I can do math. And then he'll spend a 10 action point. Haha, bad roll, but that's okay. That's all he needs. I'm going to check off this 10 hours, but because he's at home and things are not okay at home, I'm actually going to say it's 20 hours. And I like this image of Milton. He's laying on his bed. The smell of smoke just won't stop coming out of his office, but there never is any actual smoke. It's not like the smoke alarm is going off or anything. It's just the smell of smoke, and he's freaking out, and he's laying in bed in the fetal position, and he's basically huddling there for almost 2 full days. As he just has a couple of mental health days. He finally gets up about a day and a half into it, and he orders some food, and he only eats about half of the food, and then he leaves the rest of the food out on his counter. And it's a neat little way to show like his situation is mirroring Seth's situation, because when we broke into Seth's house, it was also covered in like half-eaten takeout, and now Milton's kitchen has half-eaten takeout in it. There's some like images there. But so 20 hours later, we're going to move him to impaired. What do I want to do with his stress level? I'm going to let him heal 3 points of stress. I'm not going to let him heal all of his stress, but he'll heal 3 points of stress and push his stress level back down to 1. Okay. It's the next morning, or it's, a couple days later. Milton wants to be done with this. This chaos factor is going up to 4. That last thing did not work out well for him. He wants to be done with this. He's freaked out. Enough is enough. And so something needs to happen to push him further in here. Let's figure out what happens. Descriptions. Let's see. I don't know if this is going to help, but passively young. That's almost exactly. I think that's eerie. Yeah, Milton having a really bad day. I do believe that you restore these, though, after when you fully rest, and we are fully rest here. So he gets those back. Yeah, reset recovery rules. What happens is there is a knock on his door. And he goes to open the door, and there's a girl standing on his doorstep. He lives in an apartment, and so she's gotten inside the apartment and is knocking on her doors. This is Erie Banks. And she is here because her machine is pissed off, and she's as good an internet sleuth as Milton is. And she slams her fists against Milton's door. And Milton stumbles over to the door. He takes a couple of deep breaths, gathers himself. I think he just walks. I don't think he stumbles. He's back at most of his stuff. He's a little impaired. But he opens the door, and he sees a woman standing there, and this woman has, like, long black hair. Actually, let's roll on appearance. Because why not? Ooh, she's hurt. And aromatic. She's hurt and she smells like blood. No, I love this idea, though, that she is hurt. She's burnt. And the aroma is smoke. And she's pissed off. Milton opens the door. And I think she shoves past him into the apartment. And Milton's like, whoa, 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 who are you? What's going on? And she points her finger at her and she says, this is your fault. It's all your fault. And Milton gets a sinking feeling in his stomach because, like, this can only be related to the journal and the ambulance and everything like that. And she says, first I read that creepy journal you posted, and at first I was into it. I thought it was the start of an ARG. I thought it was going to be a fun little gothic romance story, and I was here for that. But no! You had to go plant some stupid malware to make all of my processors overclock, and now my computer burned down, my apartment burned down, it all burned down, and it's all your fault. And this is going to be the day move from public access, because when you do something or face something you fear, name what you're afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve. And Milton is afraid that if he doesn't talk his way out of this, that Eerie will blame him. And I do think it's just that simple. Like, he doesn't want to be blamed for this. He's protesting his innocence. You know, it wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. I didn't mean to get you involved. And this is going to be a social check. Difficulty 4. Difficulty 4. I think we're just going to keep it at that. He is going to spend 2 points in there, so he's going to drop his intellect. Now it's a difficulty 3, and if he beats a difficulty 5, he gets a bonus. So, ooh, he fails. The Keeper will tell you how your actions would leave you vulnerable, and you can choose to back down or go through with it. So Milton is saying, you know, it wasn't my fault. Yeah, lady, this is a Wendy's. That's definitely the feeling going on here. Lady, this is a Wendy's. But he finally sinks into his couch, defeated. And he's like, fine, blame me if you want, fine. And he's like just kind of out of fight a little bit. And Eerie, whose real name is, because that's her screen name, let's come up with her real name now. We've got Time. KR Crystal Clocks. That has that cool double. I like names that have the first name and last name have the same letter, which is why Milton Marks is MM. And now Crystal Clocks, aka Crystal Clocks. And that's kind of a weird name, but I like it, and we're going with it. Crystal looks at Milton and says, you know what? Why don't you tell me what the fuck is going on here? And so Milton explains and says, but you... Yeah, alliteration. That's the word I'm looking for. Milton says, but you're here now, and, like... I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to get anyone else involved. If I had known that uploading the journal was going to hurt people, I wouldn't have done that. But it wasn't on purpose. I didn't do any of this on purpose, and you're here now, and you could help. And I think she, like, looks at him and is like, no, I can't help. I'm a TA. I have duties at the school. I'm a student. I can't just drop everything in my life and go on some wild goose chase. Besides, it sounds dangerous. No way. But this was your fault. I don't think the police will do anything. But if you don't fix what's going on here, then I will make your life a living hell. And Milton, I think this gets Milton's back up a little bit. And he's trained in intimidation. And so he's going to make a difficulty 4 intimidation roll. He gets a 17. He beats it. He finally stands up and he says, "You know what? No. You think you can make my life a literal hell? Lady, I know exactly how that works. I will dox you. I will spread the worst rumors about you. And if you don't think I can use AI to create whatever pictures I want to, then you're crazy. Because I will destroy you if you make a single move against me." Milton's not a very nice guy. And I think Crystal looks at him. And she's like, "Well, fine, but don't think I'm going to forget this. And I am sending you the bill for all my missing stuff." And she storms out. And I think that scene really kind of went badly. I don't think that was a good scene for him. This is a Wendy's with free Wi-Fi. So Milton knows that he can't just give up on this. Crystal has already come after him. With everything going on, it's likely that she won't be the first person to go after him. And gosh, I think he wants to go talk to Seth again. Like, 3rd time's the charm, right? He does a little bit of research and finds out that Seth is in jail right now. Still, like, they put him in jail and they haven't found a place for him to go yet. And so with a heavy heart, oh, you know what? I wasn't applying my negative stress levels. Oh well. What can you do? You can give a GM intrusion. The GM intrusion, he'll take it. I'm going to give him an XP. Is while he's on his way to the police station, he happens to look up in the rear view mirror, and for just a second, he thinks he sees a figure sitting in the back seat. And he panics, and he's going to need to make a speed roll. This is only a difficulty 3. It's not a super hard speed roll, but he is startled, and he could possibly crash his car here. He needs to roll a 9 or higher. He rolls a 2. Do I want to spend an XP to re-roll that? I kind of do. Let's try it again. Okay. He manages to keep control of the wheel. And when he looks back in his back seat, there's nothing there. He looks back at the mirror, there's nothing there. But he does take a point of stress. Because what the heck is going on? He arrives at the police station. We're going to test our scene. The scene should be that he tells the police he wants to visit. And they're probably going to demand he pays bail because this isn't a prison, it's just a lockup. So let's see if the scene is altered or not. Scene was altered. Let's roll. Will it tell me how it was altered? Because that would be useful. Mythic. Scene alteration. Event. Focus. Yeah, okay. So the scene is altered by an NPC action. I don't have an NPC right now that could do something. So we need to do a new NPC. I've got no idea who this guy is, so let's just roll identity. A lackey, a thief. This feels like it could be... Cultist isn't the word I want to use, because that has too much Cthulhu mythos to it. But I think it is a lackey of one of the avatars. Let's just, like, roll. Where's the page that has all of the different powers on it? It's like, the entities. This is what I'm looking for. And I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 entities. Let's just roll a d15. 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is the lonely. This is a... I don't even know if it's an avatar, because avatar kind of is too strong. But it is a follower of the lonely. We'll give him a name. Why not? B-E. B-Gen. Benjamin? Benjamin. Yeah, Benjamin. Banks. I'm going to add him to my NPCs. Benjamin Banks. And he is a follower of the lonely. And he is trying to... It said thief. Okay. He wants to take... He's there to get Seth. He wants to pay Seth's bounty, ransom, bail. That's the word I'm looking for. He's already at the police station, and he wants to pay Seth's bail and get Seth to come with him. Because the lonely is interested in him. I don't think this statement is about the lonely, but the lonely is interested in this for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is, but, we'll find out. So Milton gets there, and Benjamin's already at the front counter. He's talking to one of the policemen, and he says, "Oh yeah, $1,500? Absolutely. I've got that right here." And he pulls out a wad of cash that's like $1,500, and he's handing it across the table and says, "And now, if you'll just bring him out, we'll be on our way." And we see Seth being marched into the lobby. His hands are still cupped behind his back, but the police officer uncuffs him and says, "Well, no one was pressing charges against him anyway, so I guess it's okay if you take him." And then Seth sees Milton, and he says, "I know you." And Milton says, "Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you." And Benjamin says, "Oh, well, if it isn't an intruder." And Milton says, "I'm not an intruder. I was just here to see Seth." And Benjamin says, "Well, if you want to talk to Seth, why don't you come for a ride with me?" And he's going to take both Seth and Milton for a ride. I have been playing for about 2 hours, and it is 5:18. It's time for me to go work on making some dinner, and I feel like getting into the car with Benjamin is probably going to start horror mode, and it feels like a good place to stop it right now. I think this is going to be a freaky deaky car ride. So I'm going to end this session here for now. Charlie, thank you so much for joining me. I had a lot of fun hanging out with you. I hope you, I don't know, enjoyed this. Very weird thing that I'm doing. And, I may go live, probably not on a consistent schedule. This is kind of like a whenever I want to thing. Um, but it was awesome hanging out with you, and have a great night.